Well, I see the red light. I'm outside. I'm at the library, and the library's closed. But there's a picnic table out here. Kids gather here before school and hang out, so they don't have to stand in the street while they're waiting on the bus. But it's Labor Day, so anyway, I had bad signal at my house and couldn't do what I needed to do. So I came here, and I trust that this will be all right. I'm not sure about the picture because of the sunlight and everything, but you know, it's daylight. People have been seen in the daylight for a long time, except for vampires. They usually die when they get in the daylight. We're going to back up just a little bit. I don't have my Bible out here because I knew in this bright light I wouldn't be able to read it, so I'm looking at it on my laptop. And I'll just pick up yesterday. We're in the Gospel according to St. John, chapter 19. And I'm sorry we got cut off earlier. I live almost at the top of the hill. I live one house down from the top of the hill, and so sometimes my cell reception is and Wi-Fi reception both. Sometimes they can be as terrible as well, mainly my phone. It could be just as bad as if I'm in the bottom of a gully somewhere. I don't understand how it works. Maybe I'm not smart enough. I don't know. But anyway, uh, we're just going to back up a little bit. And of course, you see that I'm out of my element. So if I act weird or if I get spooked by something or if a giant bee comes by and tries to carry me away, you'll know what happened. Just back up a little bit in chapter 19. Chapter 19 covers the Jesus before Pilate, the judgment of Jesus. Uh, it it covers his crucifixion and his burial, and we're going to get to the burial today. I want to back up just a little bit and read where we were yesterday, and it says the Jews therefore, beginning in verse 31, the Jews therefore, because it was the preparation that the body should not remain upon the cross on the Sabbath day, for that Sabbath day was an high day, uh, besought Pilate that their legs might be broken and that they might be taken away. And then came the soldiers and brake the legs of the first and of the other which was crucified with him. But when they came to Jesus and saw that he was dead already, they brake not his legs. But one of the soldiers with a spear pierced his side, and forthwith came there out blood and water. And he saw that he that saw it bare record, and his record is true, and he knoweth that he saith true, that you might believe. He knows it is true because he saw it. This is John the Apostle writing this account, and we know he was at the foot of Jesus at the cross with Jesus' mother Mary. And he told Mary that John is her son now, and told John that Mary is his mother there. And from that day on, he took her into his house. And he that saw it bare the record. That's John. And for these things were done that the scripture should be fulfilled. A bone of him shall not be broken. And again, another scripture saith, they shall look upon him whom they have pierced. And of course, we went through this at length yesterday. I'm not going to go through it again. You can check yesterday's program about that. If I start to sweat, it's because I'm sitting in the sun. I thought there was a canopy on this little area, but it's just like there's not even a brush arbor. There's just some two-by-fours, painted two-by-fours across that they could run lighting to and hang some lights out. So there you go. I bet somewhere there's a receptacle too. Yes, there is a receptacle right behind me. Uh, it's kind of fun. I could get used to this if it wasn't raining. Because if it's raining, I can't sit here because it'd be raining on my head. It's like the sun shining down on my head. Chapter 19 of John, beginning in the 38th verse. And after this came Joseph of Arimathea, being a disciple of Jesus, but secretly for fear of the Jews. Joseph of Arimathea, he was one of the Pharisees, along with Nicodemus. He is one of two Pharisees we know who believed on Jesus, Nicodemus and Joseph. and their votes were in defense of Jesus. They did not vote for his crucifixion. They spoke against against the criminalization of what Jesus was trying to say. But they were 2 out of 70, and then plus the high priest and his family. And, whatever the high priest and the ruling class said, the Sanhedrin went along with it. Just like in this country, whatever the ruling class says, the Congress and the Senate goes along with it, because they could not be there if they had not been bought by the powers that be. We live in a corporate autocracy, and it's an interesting thing to think about on Labor Day. But anyway, we're not going to talk about that today. If you're watching this at home, and maybe because you're off on Labor Day, if you're off, it's because labor gave you a 40-day week, it gave you a holiday, it gave you paid holidays, it gave you time off, it gave you sick pay, it gave you insurance, it gave you retirement. It took away child labor, although many states are trying to put that back in again. It leveled the playing field for the working man and woman. Still uneven, but you know what? You may be on the downhill side, but money and benefits run to you in a more sure way than they ever did before the late 1800s. And Labor Day is like 120 years old. It was signed into law by Grover Cleveland back in the 1890s. It's a big deal, and it's a great holiday. Joseph of Arimathea was one of the rich people, one of the ruling class, one of the people who ran things, but his voice was put aside because the predominant feeling of the ruling class was that one man must die for the people. Remember, they said that the high priest said that Jesus had to die, and they took counsel on how they might deliver him unto Pilate. They sought to accuse him, how they might destroy him, how they might kill him, how they might take him. It's described over and over in all 4 gospel accounts about how this ruling class of people wanted to kill Jesus, led by the religious leaders of that time. Joseph of Arimathea was a disciple of Jesus, but secretly for fear of the Jews. Now, did he have a lot of guts? Not before, but now he's got a load of guts, because he went and begged the body of Jesus. After this, Joseph of Arimathea, being a disciple of Jesus, but secretly for fear of the Jews, besought Pilate that he might take away the body of Jesus. I want to bury him, man. I want to bury him. Let me go get him. And Pilate gave him leave. He said, okay, you want to take him, take him. I don't have anything to do with it anymore. I washed my hands in it, remember? Or of it. Might as well have washed his hands in it, because that blood didn't go away unless he got saved, I promise you. But Jesus can wash it away. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be white as snow. Pilate gave him leave. He said, okay, go get Jesus. And Joseph came therefore and took the body of Jesus. Now there came also Nicodemus, which at the first came to Jesus by night, and brought a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 100-pound weight. We're talking about thousands of dollars in today's money of this stuff that they brought. These were precious ointments, precious spices, precious things that only rich people could use to anoint the body for the burying. And remember, Mary got in a lot of trouble. Mary, the sister of Martha, the brother of Lazarus, she got in a lot of trouble because she broke a box of spikenard, which was precious. It was ointment, and Judas was mad because it could have been sold for 200 pence. A pence in the Old English, that was a measure of what you got paid for a day's labor. A day's labor was a pence. So that box of smell good, or ointment, or oil, whatever it was, or perfume, according to the art of the apothecary, as it were, that box of spikenard was worth 200 days of labor. Now, what do you get paid when you work 200 days? Whatever it is, it ain't enough. Unless you're one of them fat cats that think they run the world, and most of the time do. Now, that was a lot of money that they were taking to spend on this crucified man, the crucified one, Jesus Christ. And that proves that old Joseph of Arimathea. Let me tell you what, man. When you get saved, God not only saves you, He saves your wallet too. He saves the dollar in your pocket. He bought you out of slavery to sin, and you have a new master now. And when He bought you with His blood, He bought what was in your pocket. He bought what was in your bank account. It all belongs to Him now. Don't ever think you're giving Him a penny. You don't. He already owns it. Look at it that way. Now, here was a rich man giving Jesus a rich man's funeral, Joseph of Arimathea. He said that there came also Nicodemus, which came at first to Jesus by night. Remember in chapter 3, Nicodemus came to him by night. Now, much ink has been spilled, and I've gone over this before, that there was something surreptitious or something sneaky or clandestine about his coming at night, that he didn't necessarily want to be associated with Jesus. But we know that he didn't mind being associated with Jesus, because way back in chapter 7, he told the Romans, told the Jewish leaders, the Sanhedrin, the high priest, the chief priest, he said, do we condemn any man before we hear what he has to say? And the high priest shut him down and said, what are you, Galilean too? This man stirreth up the people. This people knoweth not the law. Nicodemus was defending Jesus in public, so he wasn't scared. Now, I believe that Nicodemus was the teacher of Israel. That's what Jesus calls him. He said, you're the master of Israel. That's what Jesus said. So why would he be afraid to confess Jesus? No, he wasn't afraid at all. He defended Jesus in public. He defended Jesus against the high priest. And now here he is with Joseph. So when it says John is just reminding us that that's the same guy that came to Jesus by night. He's reminding us in his story that he wrote that back in chapter 3, so that we'll know who John is talking about in the story, in this part of the story. And so my take is this: if Nicodemus was the teacher, if he was the master, he was a busy man. And Jesus, we know, was busy daily teaching in the temple and teaching in the environs and all around it. So they were both busy men. Maybe they didn't get a chance to talk until supper time. And that's when a lot of us in the old days, before this 24/7, 365 and a quarter, I guess, if you want to be accurate, 365.25, 365 days a year, all day long, every day, this kind of life that we live, people would work until it got dark, and then they'd come in and they'd eat their supper. And they'd sit there and they'd talk about the day, and they'd talk about poetry, and they'd talk about politics, and they'd talk about the things that mattered to them. We've lost that, and we're all the poorer. Now, Nicodemus came to Jesus. He came to Jesus at night because that's the only time he had to come, because he was a busy man. It reminds me, Bill Dudley reminded me what Herschel Hobbs said. He said, I want to be so busy when I die that I keep going for 3 days afterward. I think that's pretty cool. I forgot about that until Brother Dudley reminded me of it. Now, there came also Nicodemus, which at first came to Jesus by night, because that was probably the only time their schedules could intersect, and brought a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 100-pound weight. It was Nicodemus who brought the spices. See, Joseph called Nicodemus on the cell phone, and he said, hey, on your way to the tomb, stop at Whole Foods and pick up 100 pounds of myrrh and aloes and whatever else you're going to bring. Well, probably not. But they had planned it together, and Nicodemus brings the spices. We don't know whether he bought them. Everything would have been closing down by this time as it drew near the end of the day. And so anyway, I'm sorry, I had a brain freeze. I was looking at my Uncle Freddie's calling me on the phone, but I got the sound off. I'll just go ahead and finish this, and I'll talk to him when I'm done. Got a cousin that's near death, and it may be that call. So you pray for Royce Craig and his family. He's my first cousin. And remember, Oh, hello. It's hard for me to see the screen. Hello, Charlie. Hello, Vincent. There you go. Uh, so anyway, um, they brought the stuff, Nicodemus did about 100 pounds of it. And Brother James Akins has preached much about this. I've heard him preach 3 sermons about this and never repeat himself in the last 4 or 5 months. And we've been working some meetings together. And he's done a lot of study and a lot of prayer and put a lot of time into this, developing sermons about the burial of Jesus. Uh, he calls this series of sermons From the Cross to the Grave. And he brings detail from all 4 accounts. And of course, he's centered around the narrative of John here. And it's very good. And you can listen to those. By going to the Ozark Full Gospel YouTube site. He's got them archived on there. Very good stuff. He'll give you a lot more detail than I'm going to give you this morning because I simply don't have the time in this program to do such a thing. Nicodemus and what's the guy's name? Joseph of Arimathea. They take the body of Jesus, they wound it in linen clothes with the spices, as the manner of the Jews is to bury. Remember, they lived in a desert place. It was a dry climate, and they wrapped you up like a mummy. You ever seen the movie, where the guy's wrapped up in the bandages and everything looks like he's an escapee from a first aid seminar with the Boy Scouts. He's trying to get away because he's the guinea pig, Kokomoko, or I think it was Kokomoko, the old mummy movie with Boris Karloff from the 30s. That's what he looked like. They wrapped him up. Now, in the place where he was crucified, there was a garden. And in the garden, a new tomb, a new sepulcher where never man was laid. Joseph of Arimathea was a rich man. And he had cut out this tomb probably for himself because rich people planned their funerals way in advance because especially if they were prominent, they wanted their legacy, their marker to be there. Nobody had been laid there yet because Joseph of Arimathea and his wife was still alive or they'd have been in there. And there they laid Jesus, therefore, because of the Jews' preparation day for the Sabbath was nigh at hand. We know from the other accounts that the women who were there with him, Mary, the mother of Jesus, Mary's sister, and Mary's sister, and then Mary, the wife of Cleopas, and then Mary Magdalene were there, and also Salome was among them. And there had been some speculation that she was the only one not named Mary, but maybe she was the 4th person if you hold to the idea that there were 4 women at the foot of the cross instead of 3. I choose the 4, and I think Salome was the 4th woman. We learned from the other accounts that she was there at some point. And so they saw where they laid him. Who laid him? Nicodemus and Joseph of Arimathea laid him there. See, Nicodemus wasn't afraid to confess Jesus when he was alive, and he came to him when he was dead. Joseph of Arimathea, because of his prominence and his position and being a rich man from Arimathea, he was a little bit more equivocal about it until Jesus died. And then he realized this is the Son of God, just like the centurion did. He said, I'm going to follow him. I'm going to follow him right now. And I'm going to treat him. I'm going to give him everything I got. And the best thing I got to give him is my tomb that I made for myself. What's the best thing that you can give Jesus? Anything come to mind? If you think about it a while, you might think of something. God bless you. I don't know how this worked out at all. I don't know if you could see me or not, but I've had a ball being out here in the sun. If you can't see me, you could hear me. God bless you.